Hey, how y'all doing?
Good.
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 Good. Chris, you tell me when everybody's in. Sitting here by myself feels really strange, but I'm gonna wear my mask anyway. Be one less thing for people to pick on me about on Twitter tonight.
This meeting is being recorded and/or transcribed.
All right, I will call to order the meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for the first time ever in the history of Mayor and Board of Aldermen meetings, me being the only one here. So welcome to all of you. Board members, I know that you all have an agenda. I'm going to start with a few changes to that agenda. I'm going to ask you to delete numbers 4 and 5, and we will do those at our first meeting in March, recognize those folks at our first meeting in March. And I'm going to ask you to add at 26A, a proclamation of local emergency, and at B, a resolution requesting the governor to declare a state of emergency. I'm also going to ask you to add at 27A, update the board on emergency rental agreements and purchases related to the winter storm. And that will be Rihanna's agenda item. So deleting 4 and 5, adding 26A and B and 27A. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. A quick mayor's report tonight. There are a whole lot of things that we had planned to announce tonight and get pushing on several different initiatives, but we're just going to hold off until the 1st of March because we know that really everybody right now is worried about the issue before us. So I want to start by thanking the most incredible department heads and team around. Our Oxford Utilities, our street department and electric department, our police department, our fire department, Jimmy Allgood with emergency management. We have had employees that their departments weren't here that were out this morning first thing helping clear sidewalks and helping clear roadways. And so thank you to all of you. A lot of our street department guys live too far out to have gotten home and back, and they've been sleeping on cots at the fire department. You talk about dedication. These people have worked around the clock since Saturday morning at 3 a.m., putting slag on roads, running snow plows as they could, just serving the public, pushing people's cars that are stuck on hills. So I just thank all of our employees so much and all of our department heads that are on this phone call. We unfortunately have another storm coming up, and I'm going to ask, this isn't really how we usually do mayor's reports, but I'm going to ask Jimmy Allgood to give you all a quick update on what to expect. I would like to mention while he's coming up that our shelter is available, and we have had it taken advantage of just during the day. No one has spent the night. We do have someone there now, and we are excited that it is being used. That's what we want. So anyone who needs a warm place for a few hours or a few days, you let us know. We've got cots and food waiting for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy and let him tell you about what we can expect in the next couple of days.
We just got our latest update, and actually after the meeting I'll be sending it out to everyone, but basically we should expect the precipitation to start with sleet and snow at approximately 9 a.m. in the morning and go through about noon. And then we'll see a switch over and a mix of sleet, snow, and freezing rain that will continue from then until about noon Thursday. Total right now, the prediction is up to 3 inches of snow and up to about a half an inch of ice.
Wow. So I got the question today, do we have generators on our water treatment plants and our wells? And the answer is yes, we do. We hope those all work as planned and as they have as we've tested them. But the ice storm of 94, those of us who were here and remember how we ran out of water. And I hope that is not something we will revisit. So we have put things in place to prevent that this go round. Anything else, Jimmy? You know, what's the the ice starts coming down, again, we will start doing our best on the roads, but other than putting down extra slag and running the equipment that we have ordered extra slag, and we have rented extra equipment for this next round of ice that we expect. But it's an ice storm in Mississippi, and unfortunately, we just aren't like a northern town that has all this, you know, stuff in ready supply and can clear the roads immediately. So thank you all for being patient with us, and we do ask that people stay at home unless it's absolutely necessary to get out on these roads. It's a service to our first responders for you to stay at home so that they can deal with things that are real emergencies rather than people who are stuck on hills.
All right, and practice your safety measures. If we do lose power and you do have a home generator, don't run it inside your home. Make sure it's outside because of the carbon monoxide danger. Also, make sure it's hooked up by a qualified electrician to your home, because you put our power crews and Northeast power crews in danger by backfeeding into the system. It's a very real danger during an ice storm to them and everything. So make sure it's in good working order and it's hooked up correctly.
Perfect. All right, thank you, Jimmy, for that. As I said, we will recognize students from Lafayette for the girls soccer team and the bowling team next meeting. So I'll ask you to go to number 6 and authorize the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on February the 2nd, 2021, and the recess meeting on February the 8th, 2021.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I ask you to give permission to adopt the corrected minutes for the July 15th, 2020 special meeting as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I ask you to authorize the approval of accounts for all city departments.
So moved. Second. So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I'll ask that the board consider the consent agenda.
Motion made to approve the consent agenda. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next on our agenda is a double-decker announcement from our Visit Oxford Director, Kenny Ferris, who is on the line. So Kenny, I will pass it to you.
Good evening, Mayor and everyone else. Well, you know, we continue to work with the information that we have on hand. And earlier today at our regular monthly meeting, the Tourism Council voted yet again to postpone the 25th Annual Double Decker Festival to spring 2020, of course, due to COVID concerns. While we know that the current executive orders and restrictions from the governor will likely change between now and April 23rd, we just don't feel that there's going to be quite enough shift to host an event of the magnitude that Double Decker is safely in our community. So we do want to tell you that there's good news. We do plan to continue to support these smaller events that we have been doing throughout the community, and maybe even throw in some new smaller but safe events that can support our unique food and music and art scenes that we have here, and have some of them for locals and visitors to celebrate. So we encourage everybody to just continue to stay tuned for things to come on our social media and our website, and hopefully we can all gather together safely soon.
Thank you, Kenny. We appreciate that announcement. It's so difficult, guys. I know Visit Oxford and the Double Decker group have just labored hard on trying to figure out the best way to handle this year's Double Decker. And, you know, it's important to know that the bands and people that we were booking, we got to the point in time where you had to commit, and if it had to be canceled, we would still be out that money. And we know that that's not in the best interest of our sponsors and the generous donations that they've made to this event. So we are sad that we have to press forward again, but that's exactly what we'll do. And, you know, I've said to Kenny and to others, you know, when you look at the 1918 pandemic, that's what resulted in the Roaring 20s. So that's exactly what we're all looking forward to. And we are going to have lots of celebrations beginning this late spring, going into the 25th double-decker the following year. So it won't be the double-decker that everyone is used to, but it's going to be a celebration. And we thank you, Kenny, for all your hard work and creativity.
So, Mayor, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So last year we postponed it. We postponed it to August. Did we not look at doing that again this year?
I'll let you answer.
Mayor,
You can go ahead.
So yes, we did. It gets to the point where right now, as far as touring musicians go, really there's just no way to kind of keep pushing them. At this point, they want to all play when they can play, but no one is really. They don't want to sign on to something that's so far out. They're kind of keeping their options open. And then kind of the same thing that we're running into for the vendors as well. They would rather just know for certain when something can happen safely. So it was kind of, I guess the saying is a lot of sugar for a dime sort of situation to do it again in the fall. But we hope to do something in the fall to celebrate. It just can't be really double-decker as we know it, I guess is the best way to say it.
And they do, John. We're having a lot of conversations where we don't want to announce anything until we have it all figured out, but there are some small to medium-sized events that will begin in April and go until April 2022. So I think there will be an event that is a more signature event in the fall, but we're just putting all those plans together right now. And like Kenny said, using the information we've got before us this moment, which makes it difficult to project. But know that we're coming out of this pandemic celebrating. So we will keep you posted. Any other questions from the board? All right, if not, then we will toss it to Pam Swain to give us an update on the Chamber of Commerce Spring Run.
Thank you, Mayor, and very much like Kenny just mentioned, we had to look at the Double Decker Spring Run, and since it is such a signature partnership with the Double Decker Festival, we don't want to hold the same event, but we would request permission from the board for us to hold a spring run the same weekend as Double Decker would have been, which is April the 24th. And I'll tell you a little how we plan to accomplish this safely. And we feel like it will be a weekend that we can still have an economic uptick with restaurants and hotels. We've never been able to really encourage our runners to stay in area hotels because most of the time they're coming here for the festival anyway. And so we haven't been able to give them any kind of a discount code or anything like that, which is great because the hotels are already full. But this will be an opportunity where we can encourage runners to come. They'll have the LSU Ole Miss baseball series, they'll have the red and blue game, and then they'll have hopefully our 5K, 10K, and Kids Fun Run. So we plan to change the starting location to somewhere off of Fisk Avenue. Right now we're in discussions with Malco, and we might have it start from there, but that particular detail is not firmed up as of this moment, but will be within the next couple of days. So we'll have our 5K and our 10K and our Kids Fun Run start from there. It will take a course to the square and back. We will follow all the safety protocols that some of my fellow chamber folks across the state have followed to successfully run races last year. Those will include no race day registration. Everyone will have to register online. We will cap our registrations at 1,000 runners. We traditionally get about 1,700 runners, a little over 1,700. So we're going to encourage people to register early. They have to register online, like I mentioned, no race day registration. We will ship their their bib and their chips to them. And we will also, instead of a hard start at 7:30, we will do a window start. So because they will already have their bib and their chip, but say between 7:30 and 7:50, they can start whenever they want to. So they can come with their nucleus of their family that they're running together, or however they want to do it, a couple of friends, and they can start whenever they want. So there's no pile up of people at 7:30. For those that do want to come at 7:30, we're going to have 6 feet marked off X's where people have to have on their masks and be safe at the starting lineup. So they'll run across the mat, and their time will start whenever they start. So that there's not this pressure for everybody to pile up on one another, and that's going to be for the 10K at 7:30, and then again for the 5K at 8 o'clock to 8:20. So we'll have a 20-minute window for people to start in both cases. And then that will wrap up, and we'll have a 9:30 kids fun run. And again, we'll keep the kids separated by marked off 6-foot spaces as far back as we need to for the number of children that we have participating. We, like I said, since we're doing the numbers and the chips ahead of time after the race, there will be a booth where people can check and see if they won an award. If they did, they'll pick it up, they'll go home. After the race, they'll pick up a bag full of snacks and water, and they'll also pick up their goodie bags, so there will be none of that beforehand, so they'll only have one interaction where they pick up their food and their goodie bag, and then they'll be on their way. We will hand them their medal when they come across the finish line, and they will put it on themselves. We will hand sanitize between. Our water stations will be water refill stations instead of open cup water stations where we hand water out. We will tell our runners that they will be required to bring their own bottle that they can refill at our water stations at each mile along the 5 and 10K courses. We haven't solidified our course right now, but as soon as we do, we will present that course route for approval through OPD after we get the event approval approved from OPD as well. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. We hope it will be something that will encourage people to come to Oxford. We have 351 people that were registered for the race last year that will be sent a registration code to go ahead and be registered at no cost for this race. We have sponsors already lined up from last year that will be able to transfer into a 2021 spring run, and then we will have a 25th anniversary double-decker spring run along with the festival next year.
Thank you, Pam. I know that you all have put in so much work to find a way to pull this run off, and for the board, I'll add that I asked Pam to meet with Jimmy Allgood to go through all of these plans so that we had his approval on that being a safe plan, and Jimmy agreed that they've got a great plan in place. Also called the governor's office and just asked what their thoughts were, since we are now just going by the governor's executive orders, asked what their thoughts were, and they said that they had allowed runs throughout even the worst part of the pandemic because they wanted to encourage outdoor activities like that. So we don't anticipate that there will be anything that would change whether or not we are able to have this run. So with that, board, do y'all have any questions for Pam?
I'll make a motion to approve. This is Mark.
All right.
Second, Rick.
All right. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Pam. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, I'm sad that we are not welcoming in person, but we are welcoming via Zoom our Judy Daniel, who is here to give us an update on affordable housing. I wish we could see you, Judy.
Yeah, I wish I could be there too, but I'll stay safe.
Absolutely.
It's good to see you again in this capacity. I'm just giving you a little update on where we were. You have it in your packets, and it's just a reminder of what you had already approved for the housing committees to work on and the staff to work on last February, and before we could even tell the committees what had happened, we had the COVID interregnum. And in January of this year, it was decided to get started again, and so I'm pleased to announce next week we'll have our first meeting, virtual and in person, and thank you for letting us use your boardroom for that. And we look forward to it. Basically, just real quickly, you had approved us to start working on 4 text amendments that will then go to the Ordinance Review Committee for vetting and modification if need be. You had 2 of the recommendations that you weren't comfortable with moving forward with right now, and 2 others related to housing trust funds and another text amendment for a new zoning district you wanted more information on, and I was to come back to you in April. So I'll come back to you in April. Maybe a little
just
sooner.
A year later.
A year ago. So that's good. If you have any questions about what you had already recommended, I'll be happy to answer those. I would think as we run through this completion of the initial work of this group, there might be a few more suggestions come to you, because they had some things they were still discussing. And then, in addition, I have attached to this, just because it was so uplifting to go through it, I assembled a sort of report card on where we were on the housing recommendations in the Vision 2037 Master Plan. And I'm very pleased to report, only 5 years into a 20-year plan, you've already accomplished 4 of them. We have progress on another 4, and there's other 4 we are under discussion with this group. So that's really good to report after not that long, and with 1 year taken out for working on it. So I think Ben is planning a full update for you on the 5-year report for the vision plan for late this spring. So if there are any questions on these, I'd be happy to answer. Other than that, I look forward to getting with most of the people still wanted to participate who were active at the time. And so we are been going back and forth on email, getting up to speed.
Great. Judy, thank you so much for the work you've put in. Does any board member have a question or comment? All right, well, the document that you put together for us is wonderful. We thank you and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, next on our agenda is to discuss the COVID-19 current restrictions and guidelines and the current executive orders. So I will ask Jimmy to come up to give us an update.
I had sent everyone an email with the numbers and everything, and I'll just run through them real quick where we're at. Today, the state had 734 new cases with 37 deaths. As of today, our numbers stand at 5,663 cases. That's only 5 new cases for today from yesterday. We did have 2 new deaths from death certificate review and everything. As of today, we're at 138 active cases. That has significantly dropped over the past couple of weeks.
Significantly lower. Wow.
And right now our incident rate is at 23.5 per 100,000, which ranks us about 49th in the state. And our 7-day average is dropped to 12.7 cases per day. So as you can see, our numbers are trending downwards and everything. And we have the vaccination site up and running. Of course, the past several days, they've had to cancel vaccinations due to the weather, and vaccinations are also canceled for tomorrow. But once that site gets back up and running, they're doing somewhere between 800 and 1,000 vaccinations per day.
And Jimmy, I've gotten a lot of questions over the past 24 hours about if, like for people that have appointments tomorrow, we've been notified now that those have been rescheduled for the 28th.
Correct.
And how do those people find that out? They get an email or a...
They get a phone call and an email from the Mississippi Department of Health, and it tells them what date that their vaccination has been rescheduled on. And you need to go on that date. It's not good for any other date. You've just been pushed to another day in the same time slot. Mm-hmm. So if you had an appointment at 3 p.m. tomorrow, then your time has been pushed to 3 p.m. on Sunday, the 28th, correct.
Okay, so, so the answer to the question of how do I find out when I go to get my vaccination, you should get an email and a phone call.
Correct.
And you will be on the same time you were registered for, just on whatever the rescheduled date is.
That is correct.
Okay, that's great. Anything else? Any board member have a question about anything COVID related? We're moving in a positive direction. I've said before, oh, go ahead.
No, I said that's great.
I have said before, and I know that the board still stands by this, we are looking very forward to the day that Jimmy is saying vaccinations are available for everyone and every age group that would like one, and that will be the day that you will not see this board having to implement safety measures that the governor has put in place. But as long as those are in place, we will continue to enforce those. So if there are no other questions, thank you, Jimmy. Next on our agenda is to authorize a reappointment to the Oxford School Board. I would recommend to you the reappointment of Ray Hill.
Mayor, I'm going to recuse. I'm going to go get a cup of tea while you all are doing this.
Okay.
I'm going with Janice.
I'm going with Janice and
Okay, that's right. We've got several that had to recuse from this vote. So those who are not recusing, John, Preston, Mark, and Rick, I recommend the reappointment of Ray Hill. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank y'all. Next on the agenda is to request permission for the mayor to sign a contract with Jan Pro for cleaning services for City Hall.
I'll make a motion. I'm back from my tea.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Second.
Good afternoon. Greg's at the podium.
Yeah, we just have this before you just to change companies. We were dissatisfied with our other company and would like the chance to go with Jan Pro.
All right. I think it will be a positive
I second
change.
Jason's motion.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Greg. Thanks for staying on top of that. Consider bids and award a contract for the annual bid for electric distribution contractor services. Rob Neely.
Hi, Mayor. In your packet, we received bids last week for the annual time and equipment contract for our electrical contractor. We had 4 bids, one of which listed a number of exceptions to our specifications. We could not accept those specifications, so we threw that bid out. And so we had 3 bids to compare here. You can see that DeSoto County Electric was the low bidder based on an analysis we did of 3 previous projects that were handled under our last contract. We used those same numbers and plugged them in, and you can see where the numbers fell out on their price. And so we'd like to recommend DeSoto County. They were our previous contractor. We had good experience and like to use them again for the coming year.
All right, you have those bids in front of you. Is there a motion from the board or any questions?
Make a motion to accept.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Rob, please share with all of your Oxford Utilities crews how very much we appreciate them.
I will. It was a lot of hard work last night. Had a lot of excessive usage, as you know, as it happens when the weather drops, the temperature drops, the usage goes up. Today we had a lot of frozen pipe calls, and so we'll get more of those tomorrow. But hopefully we can keep the power on through the night. Give me another cold one.
Absolutely. Everybody keep your faucets dripping. All right, next is accept the donation of office furniture from Burns and Wilcox Insurance. Mark Hulsey, do you want to add anything about that?
No, just one of my tenants on the 3rd floor, Burns and Wilcox, has been very generous, and instead of selling their furniture in the secondary market, that they donated all their leftover conference tables and office desks.
Absolutely. Well, we will certainly be grateful to have them. Is there a motion to accept that?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next is to request permission to declare equipment surplus in the Oxford Park Commission. Is Seth on the line?
I am. I lost my feed earlier. Can you hear me?
Hey, I hear ya. Sure do. So y'all have the attached memo of the items that are no longer in working condition and those that can be posted on govdeals.com.
That's quite a list, Seth.
We're moving and able to clean out a lot of stuff.
That's great.
Is there a motion to grant permission to declare that equipment surplus?
Second.
All in favor?
And before we make the motion, I'm just curious, I mean, Seth, how do we end up with this many computers all at once to get rid of?
They haven't been surplus before. We had saved some computers throughout the past to allow interns to have computers.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, they're all phones. They're phones is what I'm looking at, I apologize.
Yeah, okay, so the phones are the same thing. We found them whenever Bubba had left, and all of these phones were from the maintenance crews over the years, and now we just don't have the numbers of maintenance people that we did before.
Okay, sounds good, thank you, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, request permission to declare equipment surplus in the M-Trade Park Department and authorize its disposal. Is Brad on the line?
Yeah, I'm here, Mayor.
All right, and again, for Brad, you have a memo that lists the surplus that are no longer in working condition and those that can be posted on GovDeals. You may have any questions for Brad?
Move we approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, request permission to transfer 2 pieces of surplus equipment from M-Trade Park to the Building and Grounds Department. Brad?
Yeah, we're transferring 2 pieces of equipment to, they're called like Billy Goat vacuums that Greg said he could use in and around the square. So we requested that we transfer to that department. Motion to approve.
All right, any questions or comments? We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, request approval for a final plat for case. Oh, I thought somebody was saying something. Request approval for a final plat for case 2713, the Heights subdivision, phases 16 and 18, for property located at Cottonwood Cove and Sweet Gum Lane, being further identified as PPINs 37682 and 37698. Ben Requette.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. This is a final plat for 2 additional phases of the Heights. We saw a preliminary plat that came before the Mayor and Board of Aldermen in June of 2019. These 2 phases consist of a total of 20 single-family lots. Engineering did provide comments related to infrastructure and utilities, which are included in the report, and the Planning Commission at the February 8th meeting unanimously recommended approval with the conditions that staff had listed, but they did add a condition which was to include some additional landscaping in the common area, and the developers agreeable to that. So that being said, staff, the Planning Commission recommends approval of these 2 phases with the 6 listed conditions that are included in your packet, most of which have been satisfied already.
Motion to approve with conditions listed.
All right.
Second.
All right, any comments or questions? You always are. Okay, with a motion and second, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, next on our agenda is second reading and public hearing for proposed ordinance amending Chapter 34, Article 3, Noise of the City of Oxford Code of Ordinances. I'm going to let Ben take us through this, but just for anyone who is listening, I wanted to tell y'all that we are going to have another public hearing on this noise ordinance at our first meeting in March. We know that there were people who wanted to be here for the discussion and folks who had things to add, and we have gotten emails from several different folks. All of those will be entered into the minutes, but we also want to give people the opportunity to be present to speak for or against this ordinance. So we're going to have a short discussion tonight, but know that this item will be on our agenda again on March 2nd. So Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, and I do want to let the board know that I did reach out to a couple of the people that we had received comments from, just to let them know, so they are aware of that. They're probably listening either through YouTube, and they do plan to attend the next meeting. So, but I do want to highlight just some of the things that we have modified within the ordinance, and we tracked it in yellow, so you should be able to see some of those things. I want to thank Dave Woolworth for taking the time to set up that demonstration at our last meeting. I think that was very helpful, helping us to understand the sound limitations that we're discussing. Dave is here in this meeting, so I think he attached a memo to this, and I think he was going to discuss a couple items there. But I do want to point out, in particular, Section 3466. As we discussed, we pulled out the historic urban center, as we know, this square area, and created restrictions for that particular area. So sound in excess of 85 decibels dBA and 95 decibels dBc from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. And that would be measured either adjacent to the public street or at least 5 feet from the building or at the curb. And then from 1 a.m. until 10 a.m., it would actually be 65 dBA or 75 dBA. So that's a slight change, but you'll see that being consistent through the rest of the areas. So then all other commercial areas or property zoned primarily for commercial would be from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. The decibel level would be 70 decibels dBA and 80 decibels dBc, and measured the same way. And then from 11 p.m. until 10 a.m., it would be 65 dBA and 75 dBc, excuse me. And then residential areas, a slight tweak to keep the consistency here, it would be 65 dBA and 75 dBc between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. So those are the primary changes to the ordinance at this point. And I know Dave would like to discuss a couple points that he addressed in his memo, so I'm going to turn it over to Dave unless you have any specific questions for me.
Great. Welcome, Dave. We sure appreciate all that you have advised us on and setting up the sound demonstration. So thank you, and thanks for being on this meeting.
Thank you very much, Mayor Tannehill and Ben and all of you. Wanted to just say a couple things. Number one, some of the things that we're working on here is that it's based on it's a complaint-based system. So if somebody's concerned, well, I'll be over this or over that, one of the most important things is if right now sound levels are a certain way in a certain area and there's no complaints, then that will probably continue. And the numbers that we've set are based on sort of keeping things sort of the way they are in a lot of ways. And we've had a discussion about this last meeting, but I wanted to raise 2 points based on our discussions so far and the development of the ordinance. And one was that outdoor music, and I tried to make this point a little last meeting, outdoor music is not simple to control, and it creates problems in other spaces, so say other cities. So, and I wrote a note here about in the paper that I submitted, or the report that I submitted, item 1 was that New Orleans has this issue. I'm working with the city of New Orleans right now on this, and we've been working on this since 2010. So I think that it tells you how complicated it can get once you let people have outdoor music, especially until late hours. So if you can see from the note, I don't know if you have this in the minutes, but 10 p.m. is a cutoff for arts and culture overlays, and even earlier for other places. And then Austin, who I was getting ready to work on their outdoor sound, one thing was that they have an issue with outdoor sound because they're letting concerts go on till the wee hours, and this is affecting everyone around there. And so now they were trying to figure out ways to control that sound, or what's the next way to deal with that, because they have courtyards and things like that. So I think these are this experience tells us that starting out by saying, okay, we can have outdoor music until 1 a.m. may not be the best decision. And I'm going to suggest that you keep it within your 11 o'clock limit, preferred, in my opinion, 10 o'clock. But if 11 o'clock is yours, that's fine. But I think that will keep it from creating, you don't have as I wrote here, you don't have the resources to handle this. So I'll leave that, and then and you can also do, and I know that the permit process has been sort of nobody's interested in a permit process for extended hours, but in this case, it's one of the options you have. And so, and the reason for all this is it reduces the burden on the police, because you just don't have the resources to enforce this after hours. And keeping the sound, as we noted in our demonstration, keeping the sound within our brick and mortar structures is a way to, and also keeping it further from the residences is a way to maintain sort of what we have as sort of what we were talking about. So with that, the other thing was I had originally suggested maybe last November that we have loudspeaker, and there's just a couple of these things are the reason is that
don't miss all of it.
I'm sorry. Anyway,
if you have noise going on and you're not muted, if you could mute your microphones, that would be great.
Thank you.
Yep.
There's two ideas. One is indoor loudspeakers are meant to be to service the people inside the venue. So one of the ideas is to make sure that indoor loudspeakers are not pointed outwards. And this comes from work I did in New Orleans, where they used loudspeakers to advertise, to bring people to the bar. And this is not unusual that people use loudspeakers to advertise. So the idea would be, if you have an indoor loudspeaker, it services the people indoors. That's the general idea of this provision. And if you deal with outdoor loudspeakers, the key is, let's say in something like an outdoor restaurant or a patio, the loudspeakers are not pointed towards the residents, they're pointed towards the deck or wherever people are. So you don't turn them up as loud, because you're basically servicing the people who are there and they're trying to talk. So that's one part. And then if it deals with a outdoor venue, then we're also not projecting the same sound towards the residents, but instead towards the, I'll call it the dance floor, or whatever, however you want to, or the audience. And so these two things are important. These are simple provisions that reduce the burden of enforcement and reduce the need for, reduces the impact on the community. And so,
I've got a question, Mr. Woodward. Yeah. Didn't you tell us the other day, though, that basically that people, the actual crowd noise, can be almost as loud as the outdoor music?
No, I think we mentioned that on the facade of a venue that's open, if the sound is contained inside the venue and people are on the outside or on the edge of the venue, like just inside the window, their voices can, yes, get louder than the music in a certain frequency range. However, they don't have the power to project, and in this case, we're really talking about outdoor loudspeakers. And that is that you can certainly project sound with a loudspeaker much further than a person who's just sitting and talking, let's say having dinner. If the speakers are pointed outward and the people are just talking inward, there's a big difference there. So I think, thanks, all right. So I guess these are the two. I think the loudspeaker part is simple and it's physical and it doesn't require a lot of attention by the law enforcement. And then the other part is about outdoor sound, and that is that outdoor music, outdoor DJs, outdoor loudspeakers that are not contained within a building are hard to control. And so I would consider having either a different time or a different process associated with them. And this includes your rooftops, okay? So feel free to ask any question, but I think these are critical parts to managing it at this moment without letting the leash out too far where you have to pull it back.
This is Mark. Is there any difference in your recommendation for outdoor DBA, DBC levels versus indoor?
There are no indoor limits because I think the way we see it is that if somebody wants to turn something up, it's okay inside of let's say you're inside your house and you want to crank the stereo. Well, the minute you open your windows and it flows to your neighbors, it's a different situation. It's like, sort of like
so everything's measured on the outside.
Yeah, everything is measured outside on the property line. So if you shut your doors and windows and you want to turn things up, that's your prerogative. But if you want to open your windows and broadcast and allow it to go everywhere else to the neighbors, then you have to limit your impact on them. Does that make sense?
I guess I didn't ask my question correctly. It being an outdoor venue, should there be a lower level at the property line because of how the sound can propagate in multiple directions?
Excellent question. The management of the level, there's two things we did. One was in the commercial areas, they reduced the level except for the historic area. And then in the historic area, they just reduced the time because management of that level may be too complicated at this time. And again, you can get in a permitting process and see if something works or not, but if it doesn't work, you'll have the ability to pull it back. Is that helping answer the question? Because I can.
Well, what I'm saying is we didn't reduce the time in the historic urban. We're letting historic urban go to 1 a.m.
I think, yeah, well, I think here again, in the demonstration, and hopefully we talked about this a little more in the meeting last time, was that we have the ability to control sound more easily inside of brick and mortar structures. And when it's outside, the normal operational levels exceed what is probably acceptable for our area. So once we start changing the way we deliver the sound by putting it completely outside and not having a way to control it, and then we keep the hours the same, and going back to these other cities that are struggling with the same problem, my recommendation is you need to have that shut off by 10 o'clock. Now, the city says 11 again, and I say, okay, that's fine, but I would leave it that way. I would think about it that way, but I don't think that putting things to 1 o'clock and allowing these limits is a wise idea.
Mark, let me interject for 1 second. Because we talked about this at our last meeting. We talked about this a lot when we were doing the demonstration out back. That was one of the topics that, we had a lot of questions about. And the way that I understood it, now Dave is giving you the professional, sound engineer answer. I'm going to give you the art mayor explanation of how I understood it. But what I understood was it's the same level. I mean, when you're measuring it at the street, it's 85. Now, if you're measuring it at the street and the sound is coming from inside of a restaurant that has their doors and windows closed, it can be much louder than that inside. When you are measuring from the street and it is outdoor amplified music, they're going to have to really turn theirs way down for it to only be 85 at the street. So what you're saying is you're okay with that level, if I'm not mistaken, Dave, you're okay with that level, but it's going to look very different of how that sound is controlled and what the volume levels are and all, based on whether it's coming from inside an establishment or outdoors.
Yeah, Robin, I think you're correct on that. I think, but the difference here is that they're saying, well, can we allow this level at this place? And the difference is when we start looking at, if we start measuring at the edge of a yard, right?
Right.
And then inside the yard, it's much louder. Then it's a different situation than if it's within a building. I think it was sort of the main point of last time is you can certainly, as you get further away, it will the level will get lower. But
so Mayor and Mr. Woodward, I don't understand. I mean, we continue to talk about DVCs and DBAs and times and everything, but it seems like to me we really just need two different ordinances, or I don't want to say ordinances, I mean, I guess two different areas of the ordinance, one for outside and one for inside, because it's going to be a lot. I mean, the people are going to be affected outside. I mean, it's just the way it is. My answer to you is that I agree 100%. What we're working on here is sort of a way to keep it simple and still find a way to manage it. If there's no, if we can separate the two things, that's fine with me, because it'll give you more power to reduce the impact. And remember, we don't have the resources, unfortunately, to manage outdoor sound in a way that we'd like to yet. But at some point we could. But I guess the issue is that we're expanding the way the community entertainment is delivered, which is to have outdoor venues. And this is very new to us. And I guess I'm bringing my experience back from working with one city directly and one city with getting ready to work with them on these very problems. And I think it's important to know that other cities who have let it get to a certain point have problems, and we just don't need to. We need to start, and I won't say baby steps, but we can take smaller steps than huge steps, and then have to backtrack. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I agree with that. I think we ought to start small, and if we can increase it and expand, then we can do that. But we're talking to an expert that's working with Austin and New Orleans, and we need to take his advice.
Okay,
and I guess again, I know that the word permit has been I forget the word for it, but basically people are shunning permits and the permit process, but it could be the way that you manage different places, because each spot might be unique. They may allow a certain amount of sound level, and I know that we want to reduce the burden on enforcement, but we can do it with time, with a time of day. We can do it with the way the immediate community reacts to whatever's going on. So and this is the way many cities operate. They have variances or permits or whatever it is to deal with a particular space that says, hey, I want to put something here. And that allows that economic development to occur, but it also respects the immediate, I'll call it the immediate neighbors, for lack of a better word, just especially the residences.
Any other questions from the board, comments?
I have a question for Ben about one of the sections of the ordinance. I think it's just a technicality that we need some consistency. Ben, we talked about the section about barking dogs. Under the primarily residential areas, it says that a noise that's plainly audible between 10 p.m. and 10 a.m. at the property line of the residence or adjacent public street. And when we get down to the part about dogs, we leave out the property line, and that's a problem because there are some houses that are like, say, Grand Oaks. The houses are way back from the street, and if you're only looking at the noise from the street, there could be a dog barking next door to the mayor all night long, and it wouldn't be a violation because you can't hear it from the street. So I think we need to add that from the street or the property line.
Absolutely, we can incorporate that as we discussed earlier today.
Yeah, it'll just be more consistent.
Janice, this is David. I'm going to say this. You can hear a dog barking miles away.
I know.
So I don't know that the property line, that I wouldn't worry as much about that particular part, because the dog could be barking and be below the level of street noise and crickets, and you'll still hear it several miles away. So
what can we do? I mean, I get more complaints about that than I do about other noise.
Right. Well, I think the rule holds. It's a question of enforcement, and at this point, I think we would want to get in touch with Rusty, or if Rusty's here, to understand what the best way to do this. I proposed recently that we had 10 minutes continuous or 15 minutes continuous, and either 20 or 30 minutes intermittent would be a rule that say, okay, if we can figure that out, if a dog is going to be out there and doing this for an extended period of time, then that's a numerical way to quantify it, and all you need is a cell phone to record it. All you need is somebody to observe it. The minute you get people too close to the place to observe it, the dog may get excited. Like, for instance, if the police show up to the gate, they could incite the dog to make noise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if there's a dog who is a nuisance dog, then you can, I think, if it's a regular nuisance, then it's easy to document, and then you can easily create 10 minutes or whatever, a 30-minute, whatever, 10, 20, 30-minute recording that says, okay, this dog's intermittent for this long, and it's clear, and a dog you make any recording, even if it's in the distance, it'll be plainly audible.
Okay. We need to check, though, with OPD and see if they will take a recording from a citizen as proof that a dog is barking. What I have heard in the past is that OPD comes to the location and they have to hear it in order for them to do something about it. So I don't
Chief
know.
McCutcheon is here. I'll let him speak to that.
Hey, Ms. Janice, on that question, I think the simplest thing is if we have a homeowner who's being disturbed, they can sign disturbing the peace on the residents. So we will go to the house, we'll listen and see what we can hear. Sometimes, we've got to have that caller, be able to talk with us. So there's a little nuance in that, but we have no issues going to those calls and taking those reports and trying to make contact with the owner of the dog.
What happens, I think, often is the caller calls and says, I want to remain anonymous, I don't want to, I just want you to come make the dog stop barking, but I don't want you to use my name. And so then that makes it difficult, I think, usually more than whether or not they hear the dog. It's that there's no one to actually press charges or what have you.
Yeah, I would caution the 15 or 20 minutes. I mean, that's quite a bit of time and resources. So I think we should look at a different option for that.
That being said, Janice, we can continue to vet that, work with Dave, work with Rusty, and make sure we flesh out, all of those parameters, and we'll come back with something that we have some pretty good consensus on.
Good, thank you.
I might add that I'm sorry, this is David. That the time limit is based on enforceable or legal standards and across the nation. So I would say we can maybe work that out with the police department and understanding what's acceptable and what's not. Okay?
Well, from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m., there's not too much that's acceptable as far as a barking dog. If somebody's hearing it in their home, it's waking them up, it's waking their children. I agree with Chief. 20 minutes of a barking dog is absolutely too much. All right, let's work on that. I don't think we're going to solve it right now.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Dave or Ben? All right, Dave, thank you so very much for being here for us again tonight. And we will move along to have another public hearing on what's our first March meeting, March 2nd? Yeah, on March 2nd. So for those of you who want to make public comment, you will have the opportunity then. So next, we'll move to request permission for the Destination Oxford Car Show to use the Oxford Square and Monroe Street on May 15th, 2021 for its annual car show.
It's the same one we've done the last couple of years. It's been a great event. No issues for us on this.
Wonderful. This brings a lot of folks to town, and we're excited to start doing some more outdoor events. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That was an aye that you're for it or opposed? Keisha?
I think it was all right.
Just a delayed aye. Okay. Next is request permission for Malco Theaters to host outdoor movies for the Oxford Film Festival on March 26th through the 28th at the Malco Commons Amphitheater using amplified sound. Jeff?
Mayor, this one we'll have 3 different locations for this, but at the Malco, all the sound, we've had some questions, but the sound will actually be through your radio, so it won't be amplified throughout, so no issues with that.
All right. Is there a motion to?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, request permission for Matt Weimer to host outdoor movies for the Oxford Film Fest on March 24th through the 28th at the 825 Sisk Avenue using a projector and amplified sound.
One statement on this one, it will be at the Oxford High School, so there was some concern on that. Address is just a bit off, but that's where that location will be.
Okay. All right, same
But
thing.
this time it will be amplified sound, or is it on the radio?
Still radio.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, request permission for the Oxford Conference Center to host outdoor movies for the Oxford Film Festival, March 24th through the 28th at the Conference Center lawn using amplified sound and music.
Same event, different location.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. And then under that, we will look at Jimmy's proclamation of local emergency, which I signed the other day that we need you all to ratify at A, and then B is a resolution requesting the governor to declare a state of emergency.
Yes, we went ahead.
So moved.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jimmy, I didn't know, I thought it was just housekeeping.
No, it's just housekeeping, getting the emergency proclamations to the state and everything. The mayor signed it on Saturday. You just have to reaffirm it, and then requesting the governor to sign a state of emergency for the state.
All right, so first I need a motion on the proclamation. John Morgan made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next I need a motion on the resolution requesting Governor Tate Reeves to declare a state of emergency.
So moved. Mark.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you. Request project activation for the Thacker Sidewalk Project through our Transportation Alternative Award. Rihanna, are you on the line?
I am, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Well, before you even get started, thank you for all of the time that you and your crews have put in over the past, it seems like 2 weeks, but 3 days. I can't imagine how tired y'all are. I know you've had folks sleeping at the fire department to get some rest in between shifts, and we just can't thank you enough.
Absolutely, Mayor, and I will tell you that I was making a list, and we've had help from 10 departments in the city, and I still may have missed some. Borrowed some equipment from an alderman to help keep us warm, and then, of course, we've had private businesses stepping up and, trying to help us find places to sleep besides our tabletops and chairs. We love the fire station. We call it the condo. Fabulous. So we're appreciative and so appreciative for those that are helping us get some hot meals. And like I said, we've got 10 departments that have stepped up to help when we called them for just, different things. So.
Well.
But yeah, we've got guys here that I think this morning they had 64 hours on the pay period before 7 o'clock. They were, I think when they went to bed last night, some of them were at 64. Anyway, we got some that have got 80 hours for sure now. So.
Well, we appreciate all you're doing.
This is Mark, one question. What do you need from us? How can we help?
The biggest thing we need is just to continue to encourage people to stay home, stay off of the roads, so that we can get out there and clean. And right now, especially, it's going to be critical because the rock that we're putting out, traffic whips it out of the way. That's the big thing. And then in a few minutes, I'm going to ask for this emergency approval for purchases. That's the big thing. I think we've found what we need as far as keeping the men fed, finding them hot food. I don't know. I've called some people with some real crazy requests in the last couple of days, and nobody's told me no. So, including we got a heater from you. So.
I can provide beds and food. So, if you need it, let me know.
Well, I appreciate it very much.
Well, we've had a lot of generous businesses and other departments step up to take care of and feed our crews too, and we're appreciative for that. So you want to lead us through the project activation for Thacker Sidewalk Project?
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to announce that we received 2 of our 3 grants that we applied for Transportation Alternative Projects. The first one being the Thacker Road Sidewalk Project. We have been awarded up to $750,000 for this project, which is huge. And right now the funds are set on an 80-20 match, which means that we're going to get close to $1 million job for less than $200,000. So it's phenomenal.
It's
and
awesome.
With this project, we'll be taking sidewalks, we expect, from Garden Terrace Drive, as long as the funds carry us, to American Eagle.
So what I need tonight is for the board to request project activation from MDOT for the Thacker Road Sidewalk project, and to grant you, Mayor, permission to sign these documents and to execute a memorandum of agreement, which we will receive and we'll get Pope to look at.
Rihanna, thank you so much for this project. The people in that area are thrilled that they're going to have a way to be able to walk to the park. It's really something that's been needed.
Absolutely. John worked really hard on the grant for this, and we're thrilled about it. This project, y'all know, has been on the list for a number of years, so we are thrilled that we've got some funds now to do it.
Great. I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the mayor permission to sign the documents requesting activation of the Thacker Sidewalk project and to execute a memorandum of agreement for this project pending receipt and review by council.
And I would like to second. Oh, I'm sorry, Preston, go ahead. I say I'd like to second that motion.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. We are thrilled about up to $700,000 for a project. Next, we added an update to the board on emergency rental agreements and purchases related to the winter storm. Rihanna?
Yes. State statute allows us to make emergency purchases outside of our normal bid law requirement, with the provision that we update the board at the next meeting. So I wanted to update you that right now we have got rental agreements with equipment from ICM. Chris Carter used their broom and a little mini excavator today to help work around the square in North Lamar. And his new employee, they worked to get that area today using that equipment, and we're going to use the broom again tomorrow. We also have got an agreement with M&N for a motor grader and an operator. They've got a huge motor grader, and we think if we get this ice, it's going to be really beneficial. So we have those two rental agreements right now, and then we have made arrangements if we need more rock. Right now, we have not gone through even half of our stockpile, but with the unknown coming, we're trying to, make every provision. And so if the rock suppliers can't get us more, we've reached out to some local, our asphalt plant, concrete plants to get additional rock. So we would make additional purchases of material outside of our normal material bids for that material, if needed.
Great. So do you need any motions, or you just needed to update?
I think it would probably help, and Ashley can remind me, but I think it will help to just to have a motion for the board to authorize emergency spending as needed. Ashley, I don't remember.
This is Mark. Authorize.
Ashley?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. All right, so Mark made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Right. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you so much. Request project activation for the West Jackson pedestrian signal improvements project. That's also part of this transportation alternative award.
Yes, and this project we received, we're going to receive up to $350,000 for this project. So again, we're going to get close, almost a $500,000 job, and it'll cost us not quite $88,000. This project is to improve signals for pedestrians on Jackson Avenue between Gertrude Ford and Rebel Drive. We're going to make some upgrades to those signals. We've got buttons in place now, but we don't have crosswalk. We don't have the PED signals where a pedestrian can see. They just push the button and aren't told when to walk. We're also going to make some improvements to add a crosswalk. That's been something that the Pathways Commission has identified a need for at College Hill and Jackson Avenue, and we're going to look to get a safe way to cross the street there. We know that's a heavily used pedestrian and cycling corridor. We also are going to do some signal optimization with this project, kind of help those signals work together, link them together, and that's something that's been identified in our transportation plan. So, and I want to say for this project and Thacker that, again, the Pathways Commission, they've been such a help. They help identify these projects as well. where these needs are, and so they've been very helpful in that. But we just need the same thing, that to request project activation and authorize the mayor to sign the document.
All right.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consider, one more, request permission to apply for CDBG group funds for the Brittany Woods Water Service Project. Rihanna?
Yes, we have made this application. I've been used, this is the third time now. We hope that this is going to be the charm. We are requesting CDBG funds up to $600,000 for fire protection service lines in Brittany Woods subdivision. That's an annexed area, and they have city water, but they do not have the fire protection with the hydrants in the community there. So we're going to apply for these funds, and this is something that was budgeted for last year in case we receive the award. So we will continue to budget for it, and hopefully we'll be successful. Hopefully we'll continue the streak. So,
great.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Consider the acceptance of the water, sewer, and street infrastructure in the Heights Phase 16 and 18 located in the Oxford Commons development.
yes, this is a section of street. It completes the loop now off of Persimmon and ties into another street. We've done the inspection. There were a few very minor punch list items to be completed, and those may be finished now. Sidewalk has not been installed, and so we're going to retain the bond for that. But I would recommend that you accept the water, sewer, and street infrastructure with the warranty bond that we will receive, that we have in place, I'm sorry, and then also we're going to maintain that bond for sidewalk.
All right. Any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Consider a request for extended work hours for the East Jackson Streetscape Sidewalk Project.
Yes, and this project, in your memo, I've got recommendations for days of the week and work hours. What we want to do is include a notice to bidders in our contract advertisement so that potential bidders can see that we are going to allow additional hours, particularly work on Sunday. And that way, that should result in a lower cost to the city, because we are going to have damages, liquidated damages tied to those milestone dates to get the street back open, to have pedestrian access. So we want to offer extended work hours to help them meet this deadline. This project's on a very tight deadline for completion. So we would like this notice to bidders, and we will have a provision in there that if there are special events, excessively high traffic area days or things like that, love to have a successful baseball season, of course, and bring a regional or game in, then we will make changes to our work closures so that we can handle the traffic that we would expect in town as needed, and all of that would be coordinated with OTD.
And if we allow work on Sundays, we've already discussed that we would not do it during church services, as, we have churches in that vicinity.
Yes, the work they do during those times would have to be limited to, they just couldn't make any noise that would be disturbing to a church. So, and all of these hours, the board, if you've got ideas about some changes, we can change the proposed schedule as you see fit.
Do we need to asterisk the Sunday hours then? I'm not opposed to the Sunday at 6:30, but does it need to be 6:30 to noon at a limited decibel level, since we're all experts on sound now?
We absolutely can.
What are the hours of the services at the Episcopal Church? That would be the church affected. So I think that we probably ought to look at that and see. I don't know if they have one or two services and what the times are and that kind of thing. So we probably ought to look at.
You mean the church under construction?
What?
I'm sorry. I said the church under construction.
So we will.
Do we want to move Sunday hours to 12:30 to 10?
Well, I don't know that we have to. It depends on when their services start and end.
And I think there's work that you can do that doesn't create noise. I mean, there are certain things, if you're,
That's right.
moving dirt and framing sidewalks, and there's certain things that don't create obnoxious noise that you could do early Sunday morning.
That's right.
It needs to be something that doesn't disturb your neighbors.
Okay, we'll work on some wording for that and be sure that we are very thoughtful about the hours on Sunday.
I think we already have wording in there. As far as limiting, avoiding creating a disturbance during services of area churches.
Yeah, it says that.
Yep.
There. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, next on our agenda is to consider an ambulance services contract. I'll let Bart take that. Pope is gonna take that, I'm sorry.
Yes, this is, the mayor and Bart and Lisa and another member or two of the county at various meetings over the last year or two have tried to come up with some more definite language to require Baptist to perform under its requirement to provide ambulance services that came with the sale of the hospital. We have never had any agreements with third parties. They've always been directly with Baptist, and that's what this agreement seeks to do, is memorialize that in a little more specific terms. I will ask if there is a motion that it be for preliminary approval, because this is not a version that has yet been approved by Baptist. And I don't think this is the very last word. I think there's still some discussions, but substantively, without going through all of the specifics, what it does is it provides specific times that they must comply with for 90% of the time for city, county, and then some exceptional county routes, Northern and Lafayette County. It provides specific remedies for noncompliance. First offense for each time zone of less than 90% performance would be $2,000 in a month, and then if there's a second in the month, $4,000. If there's a third, there's $6,000. There is an ambiguity in this agreement that, frankly, it shouldn't still be here, but we'll have to straighten that out before I bring you a final one, and that is the very last paragraph of the second part of the document says, at such time that Baptist or its provider is the only ambulance service listed on the 911 schedule, Baptist will provide at least 4 fully staffed 24/7 ambulance units. I have read that provision to mean that they are not the exclusive provider until and unless a decision is made that they will be. So
right.
We'll have to delve into that to make sure that's correct. There is a paragraph that can be read to say that they will get first call from dispatch, but I'm not sure it's an exclusivity, and if it is not, then we need to be a little clear about that.
Right, and I think that we have seen that we've used a second ambulance service at times when Baptist did not, or Priority did not have an ambulance available. I don't think we want to shoot ourselves in the foot by removing that as an option, but our intent, I think, was that Priority would get the first call.
That's correct, and I think that's how this reads, but we'll straighten that out before y'all are asked to sign any final. So all what I'd ask for is preliminary approval. It's my understanding that the county has preliminarily approved this same contract so that David O'Donnell and I can get with counsel for Baptist and come to a final agreement that we can present to you all.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mayor, is there anybody else there? Because I had a call from one of the ambulance services concerned about them being exclusive, and that they have invested money into the community and what we're about to do. But it sounds like Pope is saying that those concerns shouldn't be there, but I just want to make sure that nobody else
Pope
is there.
has heard those concerns, and I'll let him address them as
Yeah.
where we are right now.
Yeah, and there is a concern, and I have seen, and I mean, let's just be very clear on the record so that y'all know, there's been a request by CareMed or a concern that this has not been an open process. Just in case they're watching or if the public's watching, this is the way contracts are done usually, is y'all assign counsel to bring you a contract to consider. Here, you're getting your first pass at this one. It is not a final contract yet, and there will almost certainly be some changes before it's brought to you in final form. But to the specifics of the CareMed participation, if you recall, they came to town and asked to be put on the rotation with dispatch. They were, but there is no, we don't have any agreement with any third-party provider. CareMed is welcome to seek to be the provider for Baptist. We will have an agreement with Baptist. We have been very careful not to have an agreement with the third-party providers because we don't want to let Baptist off the hook for its obligations under the buy-sell agreement. So all of that's fairly intentional, and I would, you all can decide ultimately if you think you can get better response time by tying Baptist to agreeing to put more ambulances permanently stationed. You may decide that's the best way to get service, but right now what this agreement does is ties them to a response time that I think is within what you all hope to have or expected to have. And in that case, we don't really care who Baptist hires for that. That's not our business. We don't have an obligation with third-party providers. We have it only with Baptist.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that if anybody is listening, that it's clear that we're not excluding anybody. Our contract with Baptist, and you explained it very well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
All right, thank y'all. At this time, I will ask the board to consider an executive session.
Move we consider executive session.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll give it a second.